Hello and welcome to this chess tactics video. Today I have 5 puzzles for you, so let's jump into these puzzles and see if you can solve these tactical puzzles. Alright, so in this position it is white's turn to move. If at any point you need more time to think, just pause the video. So what can white do in this position to gain an advantage? Take a look at this, and once again pause the video if you need more time. If not, let's take a look at the answer here. Alright, so white is winning in this evaluation, and it looks like white would be slightly ahead if he played in any other fashion. Well, I shouldn't say any fashion, but his best move is queen to h6. So he could play some other moves and he would remain slightly ahead, but it looks like queen to h6. So here, if the queen were to be captured with g takes h6, well then we have a mate here with the knight and bishop. But the computer gives the best move as, let's see, after queen to h6, it looks like knight to f5 could be played to guard this g7 square from the bishop and queen that are threatening mate here. But then the knight would just be captured, and now this threat is renewed here of the queen and the bishop piling up on this g7 pawn, threatening a mate in one here. So now, once again, if the pawn were to capture the queen, we would have a mate by the knight. So if this is played, then we have knight captures with check, and then the king would be forced to move, and a mate by the queen on h7 here. So I hope you found that answer to this first problem or first puzzle. Let's move on to the second one here, and I'll turn off the evaluation and lines. All right. So for the second example, it will be white to move. All right, white to move here. Now, if we look at the position, black is ahead in material, but it's white's turn to move. And it looks like, maybe the white queen could capture the black queen here. There's a rook move, capturing here with check. A knight move, knight to e7 check. So there are many different options. So what do you think here white should do? Once again, pause the video if you need more time. If not, let's take a look. All right. So it looks like queen to d5 check would be the fastest way to mate here. So interesting here, moving queen to d5 with check, giving up the queen. If the queen were to be captured, well then we would have rook captures here with mate. So this is one possibility, a mate here. But if we go back after queen to d5 check, it looks like the only thing that can be done to slow this down is a block by the queen, but then check again, and now a block here, but then we have a mate. All right, well, I hope you found that one, and let's move on to the third puzzle here and see if you can solve it. All right, once again, white to move, and in this position with white to move, what should white do here to gain the advantage? What is the best move? All right, once again, pause the video if you need more time. If not, if you've already found it, let's take a look at the answer here. All right. So it looks like knight to g5 would lead to advantage, but it looks like a mate in 3 is possible with knight to d2. So sometimes these moves are hard to find because it's a retreating move, retreating this knight back instead of jumping forward to help attack. And so here there are different options, but they all lead to a mate in 2. Now, if an ordinary move is played or something that doesn't affect the center here, the computer's saying a6, let's say that was played, well then knight takes e4, and if something else was played, well then we have this mate here. So let's see if there's something better that can be done. So if we go back to the beginning with knight to d2, one of the threats is, let's see here, if this were to be captured, well then we have this mate here. So that is one thing that black has to watch out for. And if we go back, what else could be done here? The computer doesn't have any recommendations. It just says move a pawn and then you'll lose. But anyway, so that is the problem. If this knight moves here, I don't know. Well, heck, let's take a look at this. If this is played, well then we have that, the mate on g5 by the rook. So that doesn't work. So no matter what black tries to do, white will mate here. And let's see. Let's check this out. An attack on the rook. Well, now what? Knight takes e4. And if the rook is captured, the knight will jump up here and mate. So nothing black can do in this position. I hope you were able to figure that one out. So let's move on to the 4th puzzle and see if you can solve it. All right. So number 4. Okay, once again, white to move here. So what should white do to gain the upper hand? And if we look at the material, material is even at this point. All right, so what do you think in this position? Okay, just pause the video if you need more time. If not, let's take a look. All right, so we have definite winning for white, and so there's more than one option here that would lead to a winning game for white. It looks like just, let's see, knight takes b5. It's saying that that would even work, so that's interesting. But the move they're looking for that gives you the largest advantage, oh, and also knight takes d6 would go ahead about a pawn's worth of material here. But rook to e6, check. And now we see if f takes e6, well then there would be a mate here with the knight blocking off this escape and the queen mating. So that must be avoided. So if we go back after rook captures on e6, we have another option. If the bishop just blocks, so the computer says if the bishop blocks, well now we have knight to d6 here. The king would be forced to f8, and then we have bishop to h6, and then the king would have to keep running, and then what do we have? Queen to g4, and now this block, But then we have rook to e8. So this is a crazy combination here. Now what? Knight to f8. Yeah, this is pretty nuts. And then you just take the queen. All right, so we'll go back to the beginning and take another look. So rook captures on e6. It looks like the computer says the best move is to give up your queen here. But for white, a better move would be just to check here, as the the queen cannot capture as it is pinned. The king is in check here, so the king would have to move to d8, but then we have capture here with check, and now what? The king can move to c8, but the queen would be captured, and then after this, now we have anyway, at this point, white is so far ahead, and even has a mate in 28. Of course, the computer finds crazy mating patterns like that, and I don't know. This knight could jump out here and check, but anyway, white would be winning in this position. So let's look at the final fifth puzzle problem here. All right, number 5. So in this position, it's white to move. What does white do? And black is threatening to push this pawn forward here. And then white would have to give up his rook if that pawn moves to g1 and promotes. So what do you think white should do in this position to gain the upper hand? All right. Pause the video if you need more time. If not, let's take a look. So the best move is rook to a1. And what this does is force the king to move to the only square it can, because the white king is cutting off b6. The bishop is cutting off b7, and the king would have to move here. Well, now we have rook to a8 check, forcing the king to move down to the only square possible here. And now we have rook to a7 check. So now the king must move once again, and let's say, I don't know, the king moves in this direction. Well, now the rook can be picked off here. And so white would be winning, because no matter what these pawns do, white will be able to stop them. If this one pushes forward, the bishop can just capture the g2 pawn. If this one moves forward, then the rook can just capture, and now this pawn can't do anything because the bishop is cutting off the queening square here, and the rook could just swing over and capture. So white would be winning here. All right, well, I hope you were able to solve these chess problems, and excuse me, and I hope you didn't have any problem with those. If you did, just take another look at the video and go over them again. But remember, studying tactics and tactical puzzles every day, if you can, for at least 5, 10, 15 minutes or more, whatever time you have. It's one of the fastest ways to improve your chess, is to just do little tactical problems and kind of start to burn them into your memory, the little patterns, the attack patterns of different forks and decoy, deflection, all these different tactical possibilities, and it will help you play better. All right, well, if you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. Feel free to leave comments or suggestions, and have a great day, everybody.